welcome back to my channel, and the simple summary of what I want to do in this video is I'm going to be roasting a lot of people who are probably more talented, more accomplished, more intelligent, more better in almost every way than myself. Not sure about every single aspect of life, but 100% definitely on a literary scale. So this video, I will be roasting a lot of really canonical and popular classics. Whether you hate them, love them, or you're just forced to learn them for school, a lot of these classics that you're familiar with are going to make my list. The reason is we all know that classics are amazing and valuable, but that's no reason for them to escape our roasting. In fact, when you roast things, it makes life a lot more interesting, and the fact that a work is so good means that you should be able to stand a lot of harsh comments about its defects, whilst you'll be able to, let's say, shine above all these criticism. So in this video, I am going to be rather harsh about those celebrated canonical works, and after each harsh comment about an author or a book, I'm going to follow it up with a disclaimer about what I think is the true value or a reason why we should appreciate that work from my personal angle. So the disclaimer really is saying I'm not roasting this work because I hate it. In fact, I've included mainly works that I do not hate and some I love very much in this video. It's like meant to be a really friendly, lovely roast, because if I really hated this work, it wouldn't appear in this video but in the overrated works video. So let's start with the absolutely canonical stuff that your English teacher might stuff you with. Dear Charles, if I had to put it most succinctly, I would say you're really, really fussy. Even though I do understand that you're paid on the number of words you produce, so that's understandable, I suppose. A Tale of Two Cities is by far the fussiest of his works, and as a child it was such a traumatic introduction to his works because it was just so fussy. I do acknowledge the language is quite poetic in some parts. Bleak House, I think, is just a creepy thing that your guardian gives you a marriage proposal after like raising you up into adulthood. Even though Jarndyce is like super nice and understanding and eventually offers Esther to follow her heart and marry the man she loves, the fact that he offered to marry her in first place after like raising her up as a kid, and the novel portraying his later retraction of his offer as a gesture of goodwill, that is just creepy. Okay, the scope of the fictional world in Bleak House and the intertwining plot is absolutely genius. Great Expectations, I just want to say so many characters exist for either nonsense comedic caricature effects or as cardboard representations of an idea that Dickens wants to say, and that just kind of annoyed me. So like characters such as Warpsall, Wemmick, Miss Havisham, like those people. Okay, I actually really loved the excitement with which the plot moves forth in the especially the last third of the story, and it's so deserving of Dickens's like captivating reputation. Dear Charlotte, as much as I love you with all my heart, I must say you need a bigger dose of realism in your stories. When I bring up Jane Eyre, I just want to say, can a love story get even more unrealistic and fairy tale-like than this? What in the world is the moon leading her away and Rochester's voice telepathically like calling her back? What in the world is this? Okay, it's actually an amazing combination of commercial success in creating an engaging plot which satisfies the female fantasy, and in the meantime it uses these elements to express a strong feminist position. Shirley is literally Charlotte's attempt to write a masculine political industrial novel, and that attempt was pretty sad because it lasted only 2 chapters. Even as a weaker work, I still found the plot really engaging, and the portrayal of characters are like super vivid and relatable. Villette is such a major improvement on moving away from the fairy tale-ness of Jane Eyre, but can we just acknowledge that the entire plot of this novel would collapse if we take away all the coincidences that happen in it? It is a brilliant masterpiece of unreliable narration, first-person characterization, passionable and relatable emotions, and absolutely amazing material for psychoanalysis. Dear Emily, is there a non-problematic, non-raving, and non-melodramatic person in Wuthering Heights? This book is literally the most convincing portrayal of the idea of soulmates in literature that I have ever read, and it's also one of the most magnificent at creating a mesmerizing literary setting. Dear Jane, do you mind adding a bit more passion into your writing? And please, like, do change up the formula of your works a bit. They do get tedious, not just a bit tedious, after a while. Whenever we talk about this book, can we just please talk about how unrealistic Darcy is as a person? And that is really just the core of the book. It's actually a very poignant reflection and critique of class prejudice and snobbery, and it's portrayed with so much wit. Okay, it's the trying to marry off contrasting sisters formula again. Eleanor and Marianne actually embody two conflicting ideals of their time, so the Enlightenment rationality versus the romantic passion, and Austen really skillfully reveals how these personalities govern their social conducts. I know Northanger Abbey is meant to satirize the Gothic novel, but Catherine's Gothic rights and over-imagination in Henry's house is just kind of random and irrelevant to the plot. It's a very acute portrayal of a naive girl's first entry into the real world after being oversaturated with melodramatic novels, so it's quite important in the context of what novels are being published before it. Dear Leo, you're kind of like Jane. Your writing is rather bland, but most importantly, please stop stuffing us with so many characters, especially because their names are Russian. You often make me wonder whether Russian people just have a talent for remembering ultra-long names. There are just too many people in the book whom I don't know what they're even in there for, and sincerely, we're not military specialists, so we do not want to know about all the battle formations in detail. Although sadly I never had the courage and stamina to finish the book, I do acknowledge that it's meant to be an epic panorama of humanity in that era. I honestly think you should just separate Anna and Levin into two books. It's such an accurate portrayal of human nature, the tension between social demands and personal desires, and especially evoked in Anna's descent into paranoia and despair. Dear William, I am sincerely concerned about the logical capacities of most characters in your plays. Why does no one in this play ever think of giving others a chance to explain themselves? Half the stuff wouldn't have happened if they thought about it. It's a very prominent discussion of race in an early era, and it powerfully portrays the blinding effects of jealousy. I just want to say everything is quite random in this play. It's a light-hearted, comedic way of presenting romantic relations in their fickleness and blindness. Hamlet is literally the most epic procrastinator in history. Okay, I actually admire this play so much. It's an epitomical portrayal of the human dilemma. How ought one act if one is not certain of his values and beliefs? It seems like the only way out of this dilemma is to condemn oneself to acting without reflection, and it's very tragic. I honestly don't know who would realistically come up with the idea of digging a piece of flesh out of someone's chest as punishment. It's a brilliant execution of the tragicomedy genre. It's chilling us with the materiality of marriage and the horrors of anti-Semitism. So now I've discussed some of the most canonical classics and the stuff that your teacher probably forces you to read. There are just a bit less canonical but also very classic works that I love and I want to discuss. In this section, I won't really pick out specific works unless the author has just one work, then obviously I'm talking about that. Otherwise, I'll just in general talk about the author. Dear Marcel, I have one thing to say to you. It's just too long. I'm talking about both the length of your sentences and your entire work itself, because I couldn't finish it, even though I loved it. I have in fact never ever read any writing beautiful enough to compare with Proust in its level of elegancy and sensitivity. He also reveals so many subtle truths about humanity. Dear William, please stop with the author intrusion in Vanity Fair. Sincerely, it breaks it. We do not care. It's a really interesting insight into snobbery and opportunism in society. Although the disposition is criticized, its associated success is nevertheless very realistically acknowledged. Dear Kazuo, please change up your tone between different works. Also, the unreliable narrator in The Remains of the Day and An Artist of the Floating World literally give off identical vibes. I do appreciate the issues that he explores, in particular the decay of society and superseding values and new ways of life. Dear Fyodor, you are really more than a tad bit loquacious, and you seem to enjoy either bothering people to death or throwing people into despair with your works. I think it is the most brilliant representation of the idea, as written by Woolf in one of her essays, that the conclusions of the Russian mind are comprehensive and compassionate. It is absolutely enlightening and touching to see him reveal the sad truth of the human condition, that there ultimately is no conclusion. Francis, I really don't care about you showing off the extravagant details of your rich life. Like, we know you're rich, we get it. His novels are more like a satirical testimony to the way of life very specific to his era and class. It's like a phenomenon of the time. Dear George, I beg to disagree with your strong views on good writing being necessarily simple and clearly directed towards the advocacy of an end. This really takes so much of the beauty out of fiction, and that sadly is the case for your books. I think he is a most valuable writer of political fiction, so very acute observations, witty representations, and absolutely relevant to his time. So here is a wrap on my roasting classics in this video. This is definitely not comprehensive of all the books I've read, nor of all the books that I would like to roast, so there is a possibility that I will do a similar video in the future. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed my video, please don't forget to like and subscribe.